much for this opportunity. So we decided to focus specifically on postgraduate students, especially because, as everybody's been saying, the sense of community has been an issue, especially this year. And it's really been voiced as an issue, especially this year. So we decided to focus on postgraduate students, and we wanted to do a quantitative study to find out the effect of specifically social activities and how that will have the effect that will have on the sense of community. So we found a specific scale that was an adaptation of a larger scale from Macmillan Chavez. So this specific scale dealt with online courses. But when we were going through the questions and the items and we talked to like our supervisor, we found out that some of the items weren't really that relevant to us. So we edited that scale. So the scale mainly has three dimensions: membership, influence, and fulfillment of needs. But since we edited that scale, we made sure that we ran the alpha for that scale, and we found that the alpha was acceptable. So this was the main scale that we used, and we then, in our survey, used variables such as participation, perception, and such that, so that Majnat will basically talk about that hypothesis.
Yeah, so just moving on to the hypotheses we decided to test. In total, we had five hypotheses, which are on the screen. I won't go through each of them individually. However, I do want to highlight hypothesis 3B, which seemed to be the one that we had the greatest support for. If you look on the extreme right, these are the variables we tested for each hypothesis. So we pretty much looked at students who participate in in-person activities and how that affected their sense of community, whether having a prior network in London helped. For international students who had moved, did they have a sense of community, like a higher sense of community than those that stayed at home? And the perception of an adequate number of social activities, whether that sort of helped to create a higher sense of community. Most of these weren't supported, but the one that we did find a lot of support for was the 3B, which looked at the students who participate in a higher number of social activities and seemed to have a higher sense of community. So what we found was that a unit increase in participation is associated with about 0.495 beta increase in the weighted sense of community. So pretty much what that was saying was that the more we found that those that had more, attended more events felt a higher sense of community in general. And lastly, we also noted that most people found information about social activity from the departmental newsletter. That was sort of the highest place and the most effective way that they knew about events that were going on. So, but for the other, we found that a lot of people stated stuff like their WhatsApp, the program WhatsApp groups.
Now for some recommendations. A key finding was the link between participation and sense of community. So the greater the number of events that a student attends, the more likely they are to experience a better sense of community. Students attend and remember events publicised in the departmental newsletter the most, and we found a minor association between the department newsletter and students' reported participation. And common interest groups like society events were frequently highly recommended to other students. Society events should be promoted more, as students who share similar interests may be more likely to become friends. Our long-term recommendations for return to normal include that social events such as online yoga, career insight talks, or academic talks such as the book club, which involve listening to one-way communication, can be successfully transferred online, which may allow students greater flexibility, whereas social events that involve direct interaction between participants tend to be better experienced in person. The Lucky Dip adventures, which involved meeting 5 other students and going on a planned day trip in London, were highly recommended and successful at enabling students to make social connections. Although these trips were designed with the pandemic regulations in mind, we suggest that these should be continued in the future during the return to normal. And students do enjoy social events that involve listening to a speaker and gaining knowledge, not just events that involve pure social interaction.